Hi, Reverend Mark here without the collar today. I wanted to talk about the idea of resiliency models in psychology. Ever since the 1980s, there's been a movement of positive psychology in psychology. Uh, Dr. Block, Dr. Hayes, and several others came up with the idea that the language and sometimes the negative aspects of psychology can be not necessarily damaging, but not moving people in the right directions as they deal with their problems that come up. Yes, there are some chemical aspects and stuff like that that need to be dealt with. But how many of our aspects can actually be dealt with by using a resiliency model? If you don't understand a resiliency model, think of it as how much harder it would be if you do have a problem and you don't have a significant base, that you have no control over the natural reality going on around you. Now, there are some limited aspects to what we deem as control, but it goes to the idea of ego and ego control. We can do so many things in our life to prepare ourselves with a base. From this base of operation, we form a resiliency in the things that we go through. We always have the substructure of base to rely on. Now, where this becomes important is when we run into those things that we can't control in our environment, we at least have a stable base to work and operate from. Now, where this comes into conflict with what I'm thinking, and it's something that I'm exploring in my studies and the work I'm doing for my degree. When we look at rehabilitation models, and then the aspects of relapse. How much of the negative wording is going into that? Yes, I know sometimes with different addictions, it's hard to have a base to work from originally as we go through rehabilitation, and sometimes there needs to be intervention on different problems. But what if we move away from the idea of rehabilitation and the fear of relapse as a motivator into the fact that we help build these substructures and have more control over the environment that we're in? That we have this reliable base to operate from. Now, I'm going to not take something not as harsh and talk about me. I've been going through stuff lately and I started smoking again. It's difficult. Tobacco and nicotine is one of the hardest substances to kick. The reality of it is my base is no longer sound. I'm not indulging in smoking because of its great desire, but I did it out of frustration, and that first pack of cigarettes got me back in. So I'm looking at the frustrations that led me to start smoking again and realized my base is still there, but I'm not operating in the sense of control anymore of my base. So resiliency model is not a failure. There's no relapse or anything like that. I just need to look at my base again and see what structures I may need to improve. Now, there's been a lot more work going into the resiliency models. And I think long term, taking the negative aspects out of if I said I relapsed and I'm smoking again, and I take it from a point of shame or loss of effect in my life, I don't want to take that negative aspect into what's already going on in my life. So look at the nature of the environment I'm in, those things that I felt that put me back into the frustrations of smoking again. I know it's something that people are working on, and I hope to work on too. But you look at the aspects of some of these things, and it relies on the abstinence model. That's where a lot of people end up getting lost, is when you say abstinence, moving into a form of rehabilitation. There's been thoughts and suggestions that a lot of people with the aspects of going through rehabilitation may need to have that word removed. The idea is to get them in and get them help, get them looking at their lives. And some people just deny getting help and seeking therapy because they hear the word abstinence. Again, it's a work in progress in psychology, and I'm anxious to hear everybody's thoughts on this. Where do we go with psychology now? Is there an abuse in the language and the terminologies used that we begin to identify as these definition and diagnoses? Do we need to be more free and move past that and realize a diagnosis is not standard for everybody that falls into those categories? There's no one thing for any diagnosis that's going to absolutely work for everybody because everybody's an individual. Anxious to hear your thoughts. Reverend Mark in the park again, without the collar. Thank you, everyone.